Hey, Nick,
Hey there, Jen.
I hear you have a problem.
I have yet another problem. I hope you can help me.
Always.
So here's the deal. I have been for the longest time creating my retreat checkouts so that I collect as little information as possible and I get the money fast. That's my goal. Um, and it's worked great. But recently, I'm thinking maybe I'm missing out because my folks have to put in more information later. I wanted to talk about the differences between the benefits of doing a short form versus maybe a longer form. And I was wondering if I could pick your brain.
That is such a good question. And it's the dilemma that all travel companies face when they have this sort of like the registration or booking form, what information they should collect prior to taking payment and what information they should gather afterwards. So I don't think there's like a single right answer. I think it is always a balance of knowing what you need for operations versus how much friction you want to put into your booking experience. So we can talk about those trade-offs, and then we can talk
Okay.
about ways to find the right balance for your business and for your audience. So why don't
Cool.
we start by seeing your short form? Let's take a look at that.
Perfect. We can do that. Let me share my screen. Excellent. So my short form looks like this. Can you see that?
I can. Yep. We got a Christmas
Perfect.
market to the Danube. Beautiful.
Yep. And I just want to collect money very quickly. So we've got the deposit information, and you can see that for a single occupancy, it's first name, last name, email, phone. Bing, bang, boom.
Simple.
And
So
then,
that's the default, I think, on YouLi, right?
yep. And then I have them pay, and it's money in hand. And then we can chase them up for details later. But the problem is, I'm
Hmm.
getting a little tired of chasing them. Some of this information I'd like now. So, like,
Yeah. Like, yeah. What kind of information do you feel like you need as part of
like
the
the
booking experience?
a lot of my folks go by different names. And so I really need the name as it appears on their passport. So that's something I feel that I might want to start collecting earlier than I am now.
Well, did you know if you scroll down to that short form, the default calls it first name and last name, but you can actually relabel those so that it says first name as shown on passport or last name as shown on passport. So that's one thing you can do here just to like improve the quality of the information you're collecting even on the short form. But
Okay.
then that means you're getting their formal name, and they may not go by that name, so you lose that distinction. So let's take a
Right.
look at your long form and see what you've
Yeah, I
been playing
created
around with.
this. So same trip. Okay.
Hmm.
But I've got same form, same fields that I had before, but now I've got name as it appears on your passport, as well as
Mm.
their mailing address and the date of birth. So this feels
And
a little
so
bit
have
better.
have you
And I've
tested
talked
this?
I have tested it and I don't think it's causing any friction,
Mm.
but I've been talking to other retreat leaders who collect a lot of information up front. I mean, everything from dietary requirements to histories to t-shirt sizes to all kinds of stuff. And my thought is that that just seems like a lot of roadblocks to get that money in. I hate to sound like
Yeah.
a capitalist, but I want that money in so that I can start, start my trips. So, what
Well,
are your thoughts?
this is the trade-off, right? Because there can be additional work to chase people for information after the booking process if you don't have a giant reg form. And we have seen clients, we have customers who have like 20, 30 fields on their registration form. But I have to say, the ones where I've seen that is more often in the B2B space where you're selling, like you sold to a school or a church or something. And so the people who are booking in, they're going, right? Like you don't have to convince them to go. They're not going to get distracted and not go. So
Right.
actually, this is when you have their attention. So go ahead and make this a full form. But I think in the B2C case, where you're actually selling directly to consumers who might get distracted, because they're like, oh, I don't know what t-shirt. Oh, now I have to look up a t-shirt sizing chart and decide what size I want. And they're not in the mindset, they don't have their passport in hand, something like that. And so then they don't drop that deposit.
Right.
And so I think, for that sort of B2C context, when they drop the deposit, then it's like, they're worth chasing. That that's worth kind of following up to get all that information. And there's almost always information you need from them, even after they book. I feel like it's impossible to collect everything you need from them at the point of registration anyway. And another risk with asking for information about passports. Now, name as it appears on passports, pretty safe, but passport information like expiry date and other things like that, like if they're booking a trip a year out and their passport's expiring next month,
Right.
collecting that at registration is not helpful. You're going to have to collect it again anyway because they're going to have to give you new information. So it's better to be collecting that sort of like 6 months out rather than on registration. So I want to show you one of the great things about the YouLi platform actually allows you to be really smart about this. And whatever decision is right for your business, you can configure that really easily. And so, for example, you can have a profile form that includes passport information, but you can decide whether or not it shows here or it's collected immediately after they've dropped the deposit and it'll prompt them in the portal. So, can you pull up Gloria's trip page for me?
I can. So here's Gloria. I was telling you about her earlier. Okay. And she's coming
Mhm.
along. And here are the forms that we've got for Gloria. And there's her trip application form. Would you like me to open that?
Yeah, please do. And so the thing about this is a profile and registration form. It's a special kind of form in Yuli. And Nick has just made the description there, explain what information is included in there as part of this demo. But when he opens it up, then you can see that because Gloria is already registered, her name, her email, her phone number, those things that were on the short form or whatever you put on the registration form are pre-filled as part of her profile. So you've captured it, but then there's some additional information that's required, like name as it appears on the passport. Because if you chose to do a short form on the reg side, then this information hasn't been completed yet, which is why this task is showing in her task list. So it's technically one form in the Yuli system, but you get to toggle on and off what shows on the reg form, which are those four ones at the top for the short form, and what then gets collected afterwards via these task forms. And she will get automated reminders letting her know she needs to complete this additional information. So just one thing that people sometimes get stuck on is they think they have to put everything on the reg form. But if you're using a platform like Yuli, then you can be really flexible about that and have a profile form that you split, show some on the reg and then some collected after booking. And then it's really all about playing with it. So you make your profile form like this is all the stuff I need about customers, and then you can choose what shows on the reg form and what shows here, knowing that the platform will support you to collect it either required on checkout or reminding them to complete these forms after the fact.
Right. And one of the things I like about Yuli, and I've done this a couple of times, is keep that short form as its own form, but then put all this information on a separate form where I go into even more
Mm.
details. So I like that I've got that flexibility there. So
Yeah,
that's
that's a
kind
good
of
point. That's the next level. You came to me with the like long reg form, short reg form, but it gets even more interesting because you can say long, short reg form. You can also then split the information across many tasks. So if you close this window for a second, we can show in this view, we've got 3 tasks. Oh, that's not too many. Complete your profile, download the app, and a liability release form. So pretty simple. We have clients that sometimes have 15 tasks in here. Packing lists, buy travel insurance reminders, all sorts of things. And, sort of recognizing that people can be in different states of mind when they're completing these different things. And so putting them all into one giant form means they won't ever finish it because each one of those items is like, oh, I need to go off and get travel insurance. Like, and then
right,
you've lost them, right?
right.
Um, or I need to like think about releasing my liability at the same time as I'm chasing down my passport, at the same time as I'm trying to figure out
Right.
what t-shirt size. And so it can be really smart to split them into separate tasks so people can digest and complete them with the at the pace that they want to. And then they get that nice check off. So like if you check the download the mobile app, and you complete that. So you can go ahead and check the complete there. And it just goes nice and green, and they feel all satisfied because they've done something on the list. So
Right.
sometimes customers say, oh, I don't want to give them too many things to do. And fair enough, respect that you don't want to overwhelm people. But the whole point of having a portal like this is because it's done in this nice, clean checkout or sort of checklist kind of way. We've actually gotten feedback from travelers who are like, I love my checklist. Like, I know that I'm ready because I know that I've finished everything in my list.
Yeah.
So don't always be afraid of too many tasks as long as they make sense, right?
Right.
Um, and so, what are your thoughts, Nick, in terms of like, do you find like, do you have a limit, like no more than 5 tasks? Or do you
Oh
just
no.
depends on the trip?
I am Mr. as many tasks as possible because for a couple different reasons. One, that short win when they're just filling in a couple of pieces of information, it's a short win. They're in and out. Plus, it keeps me on the top of their minds, which I like a whole lot. And then some of the tasks I do will be, download this document to let you know about what winter markets are, what Christmas markets are like in Germany. So I like to mix it up. So some of it is, consumable information, and some of it is information that you're going to give me. So I really like the tasks a lot, and I'm glad that I chose a tier on YouLi that has uh, a lot of tasks that I can use and tap into.
Yeah, and you also have access to the task library, which allows you
Yeah,
to solidify them. Because we're talking about like testing and like, well, do you put it in a separate form? Do you do a long form? You may not figure that out right away. It might
right.
take you one or two trips to really nail that for your operations and for your audience. And then you'll want to save that into your task library so that you can use that going forward. So you don't have to like rebuild your tasks every time you make a new trip
Sure.
because you want to capture that knowledge.
Should we show what that looks like?
Yeah, I would love to.
All right. I just happen to have my managed tasks screen open.
Oh, convenient.
Right. So you can see I've got 5 tasks there, and I've got my short profile form as well as the long one. And of course, in real life, I would hide one of those. I was kind of debating between the two, whether I was going to do the short one or the long one for this trip.
I also see you have a Wonderwell travel insurance in there, which I like to see. So that's one of our partners is Wonderwell. They do really amazing travel insurance products. So for those of you
Yeah,
who haven't partnered with them already, and Nick, you've been a partner with them for quite a while.
yeah, a couple of years now. They're fantastic to work with. Aaron and the entire group over there is absolutely fantastic. So they've been wonderful.
And so that one will pop up automatically for those of you in the US. But if you've made a custom one and you want to add it to the library, so let's say you've decided your trip application and profile form. Oh, actually, it looks like you've already done that. So it is coming from the
Yeah.
library.
Yeah.
And so you can see this is copied from the library. So there's a little slash through it because it's not synced. So that's an advanced feature that allows you to actually have your library, if changes are made to them, that they apply to your trips. So that's a pretty cool one. But by default, they come in unique, which means you've copied it from the library and now you can modify it as you need to on this particular trip. Like if you need to ask, are you allergic to sugar because, we're going to the Christmas market. So, need to know something specific.
Right. So how about if we take a look at one of these forms, like the long forms, that we can show the difference between collecting up front upon registration and then the stuff that kind of like just lingers there until our customers fill it in later. Would
That's
you
a
like
good
to do that?
idea. Yes,
All right.
please.
I know this is my longer forms.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the long form one.
If we scroll down, I really like that you can immediately see what you're collecting upon registration versus what's actually required. So I know that Gloria is going to have to go back and fill in those particular fields. I like that a lot.
And if you have that situation like the citizenship where it's not checked with registration, but it is checked required, that does mean she will get automated reminders if you have that turned on for this task. So that's super helpful. And actually, if you decide to add another field after you've started taking bookings, and you need to add a required field to their profile, even though they've gone through the process of booking, if you add it now and you make it required, it will pop out of completed and become due again. And then reminders will
Sure.
send again. So that's a thing that we've discovered is like you do all this planning, you think you know exactly all the data, and then you go live and a month later, like, oh no, I forgot this information that I need to
I
collect
need
from
their
them.
t-shirt size. I need their astrological sign. Right, something.
Exactly. So you did mention that one of the problems that you have is actually getting people to complete information after the fact. And we've
Yeah.
talked about these automated reminders. People often ignore automated reminders. Um, so if you jump back to Gloria's view, uh, one of the things that you see here, it just says trip application and profile form. It's very clear. We know what that
Mhm.
is. But, it's not it's not really calling to me, right? It's not creating any like tension for me to complete it other than my need to check things off of a checklist. So I've actually heard an amazing story from a client who was struggling to get passport information back after the reg form, and they just put in the task name, your trip will be canceled if you do not complete this.
I
And
love that.
suddenly, people were just like all over it, filling that form out. So, that might be a little bit aggressive. Like again, you need to decide, if your audience is open to that. Um, but I think it's something that you want to think about when you're naming your tasks. Like,
Mhm.
make it clear how important this is. Like, use the word urgent or use the word, you cannot depart until this is completed versus optional packing list,
Right,
so that they understand
right,
like this is something you have to do. This is something you can do
right,
it if, it's for you, if you want to use it.
right.
Whether or not you require travel insurance. So do you require it for your trips?
I do not, but they have to sign off that they're declining it.
Right. And so that's kind of, what your liability level is. We have a lot
Right.
of clients who require proof of travel insurance, especially for like certain adventure travel
Mhm.
products. And so, just making it really clear, like this is not an optional thing. This is like you really do have to do that.
Right.
So, the art of splitting between forms, but also the art of naming them so that people really understand what's at stake for ignoring
Right.
them, and those names are sent in the automated reminders.
So let me close this for 1 second.
Hmm.
And I discovered something this week that I don't know if it's been there forever and ever, and I just missed it. But I'm taking a group of folks to Las Vegas this week, and they're having a hibachi. Everybody's hibachi folks are coming to the villa, and so I needed to know if folks wanted steak, chicken, shrimp, or tofu. Nice and simple. Okay, so I created a form and I'm waiting for responses and I'm waiting for responses and the dates have passed. I just realized that I can send to non-responders. And boy, did that change my world. I got immediate responses from folks. So, has this been a feature that's been there for a while?
That is a very new feature. So if you check the box on the left there next to name, and you can just select them all and then click send to non-responders. Go ahead and click on that, and it'll pop up and it'll tell you. So Gloria is the only one who's registered on this trip. So she's the only one who would
Right.
get that email. But it actually will find across all your tasks on that trip anyone who has not responded to anything and send them one message whatever you want to say. You
Right.
will lose your spot, or
Right.
you
You will
won't be
not eat.
fed at the hibachi, or,
Right.
you know, because of course the automated messages are just saying, you have a task,
Right.
and they're very polite and just like nudgy. So you can be as snarky, as abrupt, as friendly, as whatever you want to be here. And then we do all the hard work of deduplicating that. So they only get the one message. Even if they have five outstanding tasks, they just get this one email.
It worked fantastic. I only chose what are you eating at the pot at that dinner and sent the responses. And immediately I got responses, which was fantastic.
Oh, I love that feedback. Yes, it's a new feature. So that's good to know. Yeah, are there any other features in here that you feel like people should know about getting the data back that they need?
Oh my goodness. Every time I open YouLi, I feel like I'm learning something new. And I've been using it for 6 years now. Um, I'll have to make a list and I'll present those to you for our next meeting.
I love it. Very good idea. Well, I think this has been a really good review of the sort of the trade-offs of the long and short form. I feel like because you have a pretty loyal audience, you can probably get away with that longer form to capture that information up front. And I love that you're finding the send to non-responders is an effective way to kind of prompt people to come back again after they've already sort of gone through that booking flow. Because, yeah, if you launch your trips 1 to 2 years out, there's no way you've thought of everything. Like you're
Right.
inevitably going to get to a point where, like, that thing, I need that extra thing. So, no,
Right.
so that's the other reason not to stress too much about that reg form, because look, you're going to get it as good as you're going to get it. You have that one moment to capture that on the reg form. Just remember with YouLi, you can always put a new form in after the fact and get people to complete that information there. So,
Love
so
that.
many tools depending on the user experience flow that you need to build. And there's no wrong answer. So just get out there and try it.
Yeah. So many tools. All right. That's all I got this week, Jen. Thanks so much.
Happy to help. See you next time.
See you, Jen.